Hi there guys, so boxing brought us another huge upset. It done what it does best and is completely unpredictable. Now, Dillian Whyte did suffer a 5th round knockout defeat to Alexander Povetkin, and Dillian Whyte himself said that he was bossing the fight but just got caught with a shot he did not see coming. It is the heavyweight division, this is heavyweight boxing, and that is what happens. So he will be chasing a rematch. He did explain that he wants that. He even invaded an interview between Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports to say that he wanted a rematch. So it's positive things from Dillian Whyte. I mean, obviously he's not going to find this very easy. It's his first defeat in 5 years when he was going to be WBC mandatory. But ultimately what he must do is focus on the rematch and maybe recapture some of that finishing instincts that he was so great with during early on in his career. Obviously, you have to be more careful at this level in there with Alexander Povetkin, and that's what Dillian Whyte was. Maybe he was too careful. Maybe he should have stepped on Alexander Povetkin and finished the fight. But ultimately, that's just hearsay now. That's in the past. What he can do is take the positives from the negatives and put them into the rematch. In the rematch, I believe Dillian Whyte can beat Povetkin. He was beating Povetkin. He knocked him down twice. Whyte was in control, but Povetkin found that big punch. So it's easy for people to say that Dillian Whyte was never the fighter we believed he was, and maybe he's not good enough. But ultimately, it's one punch. All it takes is one punch in the heavyweight division. We say it over and over again, yet we seem to be shocked when it happens. Dillian Whyte suffered one big blow from Povetkin. Povetkin, who has the power in that left hand, a shot that Dillian Whyte did not see coming. And Dillian Whyte paid the price of daring to be great, going in there in a 50-50 fight when he was going to be mandatory whatever happens. So yes, he paid the price, but he done it by daring to be great, and you cannot blame Dillian Whyte for doing that. He's giving us genuine 50-50 fights back to back when he is in the position he is in. He could just sit tight and wait, but he didn't do that, and it was an incredible punch that landed. A punch Whyte did not see coming, disguised brilliantly by Povetkin. Stepped inside and whipped that uppercut up the middle. And Dillian Whyte does seem to be a little bit susceptible to that. He does open up a little bit, especially when he wants to throw that short left hook. The hook that dropped Povetkin. When he throws that, he does open up a little bit on the inside. Povetkin noticed it, probably after being knocked down twice by Dillian Whyte. Maybe he thought that, okay, when Dillian Whyte throws that, I cannot get out of range. I cannot roll under that shot because it's so quick and it comes up from the hip as well from Dillian Whyte. But one thing I can do is step inside it and whip my own left hook up through the middle. That's what he done. It was disguised brilliantly. And the punch came from outside of Dillian Whyte's eye line, so he did not see it. So it came right up the middle. And ultimately, it's always the shot you do not see coming that renders you unconscious. And Dillian Whyte was out before he hit the canvas, but it was a flash knockout. We've seen it many times in the heavyweight division. These things do happen. Now, Dillian Whyte explained that he wants the rematch in December. He wants to get this fight done this year. So he's not going to have long. It's going to be a quick turnaround if he does want to do that. But ultimately, Dillian Whyte does not want to leave this stone unturned. He wants to get on with it and maybe still get a shot at the WBC World Champion next year. Whether that happens or not, we don't know, because he was #1 for 1,000 days. We know this story so well. And now that he has lost and he's no longer interim champion, maybe if he wins it back, maybe they'll make him wait a little bit longer again. We don't know at the moment. But ultimately, Dillian Whyte's focus has changed completely. It's not about Tyson Fury anymore. It's about Alexander Povetkin. Realistically, what it should have been about anyway. And I don't believe that Dillian Whyte took his eye off the ball looking at Tyson Fury, because it wasn't one of those performances where he got beaten up, he got beaten down. It was one punch, a punch from the gods, perfectly disguised by Alexander Povetkin. Now, Dillian Whyte did look a little bit cold and stiff to start with, and he has been training out in Portugal where it is very, very warm. And he did explain when he came back, he felt that it was a lot colder in the UK, and it was cold last night, especially at fight camp. So maybe Dillian Whyte didn't climatise to the colder weather in the UK and ultimately didn't warm up properly. Maybe he was a bit stiff and a bit cold, but ultimately it's not about excuses, because Dillian Whyte was in control. He dropped Povetkin twice. And yes, he was maybe a little bit stiff, and maybe the change in weather did harbour Dillian Whyte a little bit, but he was still in control and winning the fight. And just maybe, if Dillian Whyte did step on him when he had him hurt, maybe he could have got Povetkin out of there. Now, Povetkin wasn't like wobbly, he wasn't gone. It was a flash knockdown too, two of them. And yes, Povetkin was on unsteady legs. Maybe if Dillian Whyte completely just rushed him, threw the kitchen sink at him, maybe he could have got the stoppage, but maybe he could have got stopped himself, like he did in the end anyway. Maybe he could have walked onto the one. That is what Dillian Whyte has to be careful of. Make sure that he does not walk onto shots when he is trying to close the show. It's a very thin line. Do you go for the finish? Do you throw everything at your opponent when they are hurt? Or do you pick your punches and risk them recovering while you are being dexterous with your punches? That is what Dillian Whyte had to decide on, and maybe he did make the wrong decision, but it's one decision that he got wrong, and ultimately he did pay the price. But he did do that in the Derek Chisora fight, the rematch. He had Derek Chisora hurt quite badly early on in the fight. He didn't close him down. He let Derek Chisora recover and come back into the fight. Maybe that could have cost him then, if he did not find that huge uppercut left hook that he landed in the 11th round. So Dillian Whyte has done that before, where he's had his opponent hurt, but not stepped on them and closed the show. Maybe he is thinking about boxing too much, because Dillian Whyte is a fighter. He loves to get down and fight. That's what he wants to do. But maybe he's starting to focus a little bit too much on boxing. And I know that that sounds crazy because it is the sport of boxing. And look what happened to Deontay Wilder when he went in there with a pure boxer like Tyson Fury and ultimately had a game plan in front of him that he just could not deal with. So Deontay Wilder is someone who has always got the knockout and hasn't relied on his boxing ability. And I think that maybe Dillian Whyte was not looking at Deontay Wilder necessarily, but he didn't want to be like that. He didn't want to be someone who was just a brawler who could only find one big punch. He wanted to have that boxing ability to fall back on as well, but sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes it is just about stepping on your opponent and making a fight out of it. That is how he beat Joseph Parker. He did not knock Joseph Parker out, no, but he was losing the fight in the first round. He was being outboxed by Joseph Parker. So what did he do? He made a fight out of it. Joseph Parker could not stick with him in a fight. He could beat him in a boxing match, maybe, but he could not stick with him in a fight. As I said, the line is very thin. You should make someone fight when they want to box, make them box when they want to fight. After the knockdowns, Povetkin would want to be boxing because he doesn't want someone rushing him, and ultimately what Dillian Whyte done was stick to his boxing, and that is what Povetkin would have wanted him to do. If Dillian Whyte started fighting when he got Povetkin hurt, that is bad news for Povetkin. So, as I said, it's a very thin line, and sometimes it comes down to one big decision. It did between Dillian Whyte and Alexander Povetkin. Dillian Whyte will be back though, maybe in December. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.